Hey! So a lot of times I get on here and I've thought through what I was gonna say ahead of time, and I have a list of things I want to make sure I mention, or I've planned it out in my head. This is not one of those times. Y'all see Lucy right here. I'm hopping on here right now and I know what I want to talk about, but I have absolutely no idea what I'm about to say. So this is gonna get good. So here is the deal. You'll see my line on my nose. I've been out in the pool most of the day. And when I wear my sunglasses, that reflection always gets my nose. Anyways, here's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna talk about what happened 3 years ago today. And I'm probably gonna cry. I'm just gonna throw that out there right now. So, today is my 3-year LimeLife anniversary. It was 3 years ago today that I joined LimeLife. Literally one of the best decisions I ever made, for a million reasons. But let's kind of walk back. And some of y'all have heard this story or heard me tell this story before. It's one of my favorite stories to tell. There's parts of it that are super hard, but it never gets old. So 3 years ago, or a little bit over 3 years ago, it was 3 years ago in July. So 3 years and 1 month ago, or a month and a half ago, my life changed in a phone call. And all of a sudden, everything flipped upside down for my whole family. My grandmary lives in Dallas. If you have known me for any amount of time, you know that she is super important to me. In fact, when I decided to move to Arkansas 9 years ago, last month, one of my rules for where I was going to move is that it had to be driving distance from Dallas. I literally took out a map. I knew I was gonna move out of Dallas. I wanted to do something different. I was straight off of a divorce and I wanted to go someplace else and go do something new. So I literally got out a map and a highlighter and calculated, here's Dallas. Let me calculate how far I can go in any direction and still be driving distance from Dallas. That was my rule. I had to be able to drive to her if I wanted to go out for the weekend or if something happened. So that was 9 years ago. Obviously, it was something that was super important to me. I had been living 45 minutes away from her. So I knew that this was going to be a big change, that I wasn't going to be able to just get to drive over there all the time anymore. So fast forward 3 years ago, we got a call and grandmary had a stroke. And dad immediately flew to my house. My cousin drove in from Nashville. We all got in my car and drove down there. And in that first weekend, she had another one. And it was very clear to all of us at the time that things were about to be different. I left my office on Friday afternoon. So the stroke was Friday morning. I left my office on Friday afternoon and told my coworkers, I was the head of a educational nonprofit at the time. I told my coworkers and the chair of my board that I will be back on Monday. I have to go down there this weekend. I'm leaving as soon as I can. I'm going down there. I will be down there all weekend. I'll come back Sunday night and I will be back on Monday. I had every intention that was the plan. That was absolutely my plan. And that's not what happened. I got down there. There was a bunch of us in the family down there at that point. And when by the end of the weekend, we figured out that we had a long road ahead of us. We had a lot that we had to figure out. And we didn't know how long she was going to be in the hospital. We didn't know how long, then what? Then what happens after that? There was just a lot to figure out. And so we had several different huge decisions to make as a family. And one of the decisions that we made is that in addition to the family that I had that lived down in Dallas, we also needed somebody else to be able to be there and be helpful. that couldn't be my dad because of his job. So it was me. And we decided that was the best option for lots of different reasons. And so I did. And so I literally quit my job from her hospital room. This is where my family needs me. This is what I have to do. This is where I need to be right now. So I quit my job from her hospital room and stayed in Dallas for months. I really intended to go down for like 2 days. I literally had taken a suitcase with 2 days worth of clothes in it. In fact, at the end of that first week, I flew back for like 24 hours. I flew back home with an empty suitcase for like 24 hours to get more clothes and to like take care of a few things, since I obviously had no intention of being gone that long. So I stayed in Dallas for several months. This was the first week in July that this all happened. And I spent the rest of the summer and the first part of the fall going back and forth or just staying down there because it was where, like I said, it was where my family needed me. It was what I needed to be doing, and it was what I wanted to be doing. Excuse me. And on one of these little trips back, like I said, there was a few times that I came back for a day or two. I came back and got Lucy one time, came back to get clothes, that kind of thing. On one of these trips back, I'd kind of been thinking like, okay, I quit my job. I've got savings. I can live for a little while. I can figure this out. I'll be fine for a little bit. I knew I had a window of time that I could not work and be okay. But I also knew that window was going to end. Because most people, if you were like me, most people can't just like quit their job on a whim and have everything be fine long term, right? Like I knew I could quit my job for a little while and be totally fine. I knew that was not a long-term solution. So I'm 36 now. I was 33 when all this happened. So I had savings, but it's not like I was just gonna like all of a sudden quit forever. I could only quit for a short amount of time. So one of these trips back was a long weekend in August, and I was kind of like, okay, I've got to figure this out now, because this window of time that I can stay without a job or without an income is closing. But what can I do that will let me still go back and forth between Little Rock and Dallas all the time, will let me go to be with Grandma Mary wherever she is, whether it's like rehab or other facilities, or go to doctor's appointments with her, whatever, in the middle of the day. What kind of job will let me do that? What kind of job will bring in an income that matches the one that I just left? What are my options here? And that list is kind of small. There wasn't a huge list of options. I've got a background in both education and in communications. The job that I left was extremely specialized and extremely focused. So while I have lots of options ahead of me, I also didn't have a lot of options that could fit the requirements that I needed at the time. So what I knew is that I needed an income and I needed it to be flexible, period. So I texted my friend Dana, was like, I'm joining you. That's pretty much exactly what I said. I'd watched her be super, super successful and fly to the top of the company, and create an incredible income for her family. And I knew that I could do what she was doing. I'd seen several other people do it as well. But the way she did it and how she led really stood out to me. So that's what I did. I mean, I sat down at my desk in this same room. It didn't look like this at the time. I sat down at my desk and joined. And y'all know, like, everything I know about makeup, I've learned since I joined 3 years ago. I've gone through lots of leadership trainings in the last 3 years. I went through a lot of leadership trainings before that as well. So in those 3 years, this is what I do. This is my job. It has been my full-time job since I did it. I'm fortunate in that sense that a lot of times when people join direct sales or network marketing, they're working another job, and then after they build their business up, then they often have the freedom to quit that first job. That happened a little bit differently for me, but that was just because of my life circumstances at the time. This has been what I've done full time. Because of my background, I've often picked up special projects for other things that are temporary or just, different, like consulting work, essentially. But this is my main focus. This is what I do, is to take care of customers like you and to help support and guide and lead rockstar women on my team. So I've built a good sized team with people from all over the country in the last 3 years. And I hit a small little milestone this week. It happened and I didn't even mention it because I decided to save it for today. I knew the anniversary was this weekend. Earlier this week, we blew past. The team's done amazing things, but this one is mine. I have now sold over $50,000 worth of makeup in skincare in the last 3 years with LimeLife. $50,000. That's a car. That's a car. That's a down payment on a house. That is a whole lot of mascara and lip gloss and foundation and cleanser. It's a lot. $50,000. The number honestly kind of blows my mind when I think about it. And if you're in another network marketing company, there's some things that are similar from company to company, and there's some things that are so different. In some companies, $50,000 seems like an impossible number, and in some companies it seems like something people hit really quick. And it all depends on like average order number and the cost of the products you're selling and things like that. Here's the way I want you to think about it. The products I sell the most of are things like lip gloss or things like mascara that are $18 and $22. So when you're selling things $20, $30 at a time, $50,000 is an incredible amount of makeup and skincare. This is where you're going to hear me cry. So I went back and looked at numbers a year ago today. Y'all know I'm kind of a geek when it comes to stuff like this. I'm a complete nerd and I track all sorts of stuff. And I can give you all the data and the breakdown on different things. That's what happens when you're a math teacher's daughter. In the last year, I've sold over $21,000. In the last year. So let's break that math down. I've been in here for 3 years. In the third year is what I sold $20,000 worth. It's about $15,000 the 2 years before that. So what does that tell you? One, you can be successful right out of the gate. Because I earned every dime of that commission on those $15,000 the first year and $15,000 the second year. Absolutely. You can earn money right out of the gate. And that's $15,000 is nothing to sneeze at. You're talking $15,000 divided by 12 months in the year. You're averaging over $1,000 in sales a month. And that is absolutely true. I average over $1,000 in sales a month. Now I average even more than that. But those first 2 years, I've absolutely done. And the other thing that it tells you is that sales haven't gone down. I've been in here for 3 years, and the third year is when I've sold the most out of all 3 years. So maybe that means I'm getting better at this. Maybe that means I've got some super awesome loyal customers that keep coming back and, and wanting stuff and refer their friends to me. Maybe that means that people want what we have more so than ever. Maybe that means that our brand is continuing to get out there and more people are becoming more familiar with it. Maybe that means our product line is growing. Any of those, all of those. I haven't tallied up how much the team has sold in the last year. I should tally up what the team has sold in the last year. I haven't done that yet. But you can kind of guess where that number is going to be. If I've personally sold over $21,000 in makeup and skincare in the last year, you can guess what those team numbers are. It's a lot. If I can buy a car with the amount that I've sold, somebody else can, like our whole team could, oh my gosh, those are just, numbers are gigantic. It's like the amount of a house. So there's a lot of things that we've done in the past couple of years that I'm proud of. And when I think about like the big moments from this, I don't think about promotions. Those are awesome, don't get me wrong. Those are not the things I think about. I think of events and hanging out with some of my very best friends. I think of when people have joined me and changed their own lives in the process. We've had people join that have just seen immediate success. That's something that happens quite often here. And I would like to think that's all my leadership, but it's also because we've got an amazing system here, and products people love, which helps too. The things that I think about when I think of like all my favorite moments of the last 3 years are spending time with people and one-on-one conversations with women on my team about the dreams they have and what they've been able to accomplish and what they've been able to purchase for their family or what they've been able to do. I think about women on my team who've been able to pay for soccer lessons or soccer or dance lessons for their kids, or private school tuition, or family trips. Sometimes it's little stuff like making sure that your family, you've got some extra money set aside that your whole family can go out on a date night every week. Maybe right now that's not something you want to do, but you could have this money set aside, extra money coming in every month. That would mean that you could get takeout every Friday, or it would mean that could build your savings up. There's somebody on the team who has saved her paycheck every single month, and that's what she uses in the summer to pay for the family trip. This year, they were planning on going overseas. That didn't happen because of everything going on. But sometimes, like when she first started, that trip meant Florida or it meant Disney. Now it means like Europe as her business has grown. So, there's been lots of times when I've been thankful for the income. It pays for lots of stuff for me, like bills. Hello. That's why I do it. And, I love what I do because of the people that I get to do it with and because of the customers and the people on my team both. But I also do it because I needed an income, and I'm not going to lie about that. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat that. That's exactly why I joined in the first place. I needed an income. Remember what I said? I needed an income and I needed it to be flexible. The end. That's exactly what I got. I still need an income, and you know what? I'm super thankful it's flexible right now in 2020 when everything's weird. Earlier this spring when we would have all these, I'd talk to people and they'd be like, well, how are things for you? And I'm like, well, I always work from home, so work's totally the same. In fact, work was actually a lot busier. I think April was the craziest month we've had this year. So that was really a blessing that I could still do all the same things. My parents were here with me for 8 weeks and things didn't change with me for work. I didn't have to work any less or do anything differently. I could just build things around that. and the stuff that we were doing and working on, like resodding the lawn and all those projects that we got done, all of our Corona projects, quarantine projects. So, I don't know, I feel like I'm kind of all over the place with this. Let me be really frank for a minute. Let me be really, really bold with this. I'm a former teacher. That's what I went to school to do. That's what I thought I was going to do for my whole life, or for most of it. That's not how my life has worked out for several different reasons. And that was just because that was the dream I started with. It's not the dream that I ended up with a couple years later. But there's still so much in my heart that's still in the classroom. And even when I went to the nonprofit world, I was in education nonprofits. That's exactly why I did that. So there's still so much of my heart that's in the classroom. And y'all have heard me talk about, like, I won't this year, but other years I've subbed because school needed help, or I would get to go volunteer in schools because schools needed help. Or done different things like that because I knew I could be helpful. I knew I had more experience and more background, and that I could be of help. Y'all know I love to do anything I can to help people. Where am I going with this? Here. Okay. I'm a teacher. I was. Part of me still feels like I am, because once you are, you never stop being a teacher. But that is my background. So I've obviously paid a lot of attention to everything that's going on. And I've talked to several teachers lately who are trying to figure out what to do. And maybe they're trying to figure out how they're going to do virtual school at home for their own children and also teach virtually for their students. Maybe you're trying to figure out, maybe you're in Arkansas and you're trying to figure out how you're going to do all this and what this is going to look like. In Arkansas, we start school tomorrow. And maybe you've got some things you're trying to figure out, or maybe you're feeling like, this isn't the profession I went into. This isn't the profession that I signed up for, or this isn't really what I had in mind, or it's just not the same anymore. Or maybe you're feeling like, I still love teaching and I still love my students, but I love my family more, or I need to be home to take care of my family, or it's not the responsible decision for me to be doing this anymore. Maybe you're not a teacher and you're feeling like that with your own job. I don't know. But it's not an accident that I've heard from more teachers than usual lately, trying to figure out if this business is a good fit for them. I've got a lot of teachers on my team. That's not an accident. I'm sure part of that is because that's who I know and who I'm friends with and who is automatically drawn to me. It's also because teachers are super successful in this business for a lot of different reasons. Part of it is because you can automatically teach people and help people and support people in both a team and in customer base. But also because you understand people. And you know, there's so much that goes into this, but let me put it this way. This is what I've built in 3 years. And 3 years sounds like a long time. It's not really. But even in the first year, I'd built a successful business, and it's only gotten more successful as the years went on. I've sold more every year than I did the year before. So maybe you join now. Maybe you join tonight, and we start building something. We wake up tomorrow morning and we start building something together. And in a couple months, you've got enough to have some more options on the table for your family. Totally possible. And in a year, things could look completely different for your family. You know, everybody's having to make decisions for themselves right now, or their own families, that look, your decisions might look different than your neighbor's decisions, might look different than your best friend's decisions. You've got to decide what's best for you. 3 years ago, my family and I had to make a decision for me that was very different than most people would have expected. It was not conventional at all. We made a decision for us as a family that made sense at the time. It was 100% the right decision. But you better believe that when I made some phone calls and told people what I did, they were like, Katie, you are crazy. You've lost your mind. You did what? I heard all sorts of things. People thought I was nuts. People thought I was even crazier when I joined LimeLife and declared that that was going to be how I was going to make a full-time income. People thought I was crazy. But guess what? Here we are. It's not the first time people thought I was crazy. Won't be the last time. But, it's sometimes we have to make decisions for our family that look a little bit different than somebody else. They might be decisions we never thought we'd make, but sometimes those turn out to be the best ones. All in all, what I'm telling you is that I've built something pretty incredible in the last 3 years. And I get kind of emotional just thinking about it. I thought about doing this video from the pool this afternoon. I thought about doing this video a couple hours ago. And I've just been trying to kind of get my thoughts together all day. This day every year is kind of emotional for me because it's a day to reflect on everything I accomplished in the year before. What are my goals that I hit? What are the goals that I'm still working on? Those kinds of things. And I just can't imagine being in a different position right now. I can't imagine being anywhere else than what I'm doing right now. And the freedom that it gives me to do other projects and other special things, the freedom that it gives me to be there for my family, the freedom that it gives me by giving me an income from my house, it's kind of blows my mind. And if I sit here talking about it any longer, I'm going to continue to cry. But I'm definitely talking to you, teachers. I know this week is going to be weird and different. You've got it. You absolutely have this. I've talked to so many of you that are so excited about this week, and I'm excited for you because there's nothing like the first week of school. But if you're not feeling that way and you're trying to figure out what to do, still trying to figure out what to do, like I said, 3 years ago, I made a decision that was best for my family, and I needed an income and I needed flexibility. I got both of those things. So much more, but I got exactly what I needed out of it. Continue to get those. I continue to get both of those things. I continue to have that flexibility, even more flexibility, and that income keeps growing because my business keeps growing year after year. So I would love to talk to any of you that have questions about it. If you just want to ask me questions, I'm not going to hound you. If you just want to know some details, feel free to ask me anything. I'll answer anything. I'm an open book. Message me and I'll answer anything that you want. My other activity for tonight is setting the goals for the next year. So that when I come on and do this video a year from now, I get to tell you I hit all of these goals and did all of these things. That's the plan, but I hope you'll be with me when we do it. Bye, y'all.